the very back of the book. Hello, I'm ReveloGM and this is Meet the Monster, where we take a look at Pathfinder 2nd edition creatures and figure out what makes them tick, what makes them them, what makes them unique. For example, why does the zombie Shambler shamble? Well, that would be because it's slow and level -1 and your classic zombie, which is well summarised below by Monster Core 1. A zombie Shambler is a slow-moving horror, dangerous in large groups. One by itself? Not a big deal, but a whole bunch of them? Better watch out. There's more to read up on about zombies in Monster Core 1 as well, including how to create slight variants on what is shown in the book. Zombie Shamblers require a DC 13 religion, undead, check, DC 11 unspecific lore, or DC 8 specific lore to learn more about them, so standard affair. We've covered their traits before as well. Medium size, of course if you wanted to make the zombies dwarves or halflings, then you could amend this, and larger sized zombies we'll cover down the line. Mindless, meaning they have very bad mental attributes usually, and more importantly are immune to mental effects. You can't bon mot someone if they don't know they're being insulted. And they have the zombie trait. Okay, this is technically new, which simply means it eats flesh and is a zombie. It's more of a category. Monster Core says this of zombies in general. A zombie's only desire is to consume the living, unthinking and ever-shambling harbingers of death. Zombies stop only when they're destroyed. And then they also have the unholy and undead traits. Undead are created with unholy magic, hence the other trait, and are destroyed, as we've just read, at 0 hit points, and damaged by vitality including healing spells, but are healed by void damage. This is void healing, we'll cover it briefly later. And unholy creatures are usually created through evil means, and can be dealt more damage by creatures or effects of the holy trait, but flip side, are able to also often deal more damage to holy entities, so kind of goes both ways. What is new about the zombie Shambler is its unique debuff, which is common across many zombies. Slow. A zombie is permanently slowed 1 and can't use reactions. If you've been slowed and haven't reacted to subscribe yet, don't worry, there's still time. Slowed, well, that reduces the number of actions, including a value. Slowed 1 means a zombie only gets 2 actions per turn, and no reaction. Sucks for them. Remember, movement costs an action in Pathfinder 2e as well, so they need to keep closing the distance between you if you keep moving away from them, meaning they can be quite easy to evade, like real zombies. Real zombies. Zombies in a lot of fiction. It fits the trend. Of course, the Shambler is balanced to keep this weakness in mind, so some of its other traits are higher than usual to compensate. Also, as Monster Core suggests, you probably want a few of these facing down the party to keep them threatening and not just the one. For example, Shamblers have dark vision. Not low light vision, proper dark vision. Even the dark, unless magical of course, cannot stop them from getting to you. Though, to be fair, their perception is at +0, which is terrible, so you may still be able to hide from them reasonably easily. However, their athletics is all the way up at a +7, which is pushing the extreme value for a level -1 creature, and plays into their attacks a little bit, which we'll come back to. Their stats are Strength +3, Dex -2, Con +2, Intelligence -5, Wisdom +0, Charisma -2. All of those are bad to abysmal. Con is moderate and strength is on the higher end for this kind of level creature. With that dex though, you won't be surprised to hear that their AC is on the low end at 12. Reflex saves are even worse at +0. And their will saves are also low at a +2, but again, they're not affected by mental trait things, so it doesn't matter too much, their will save is low. Their fortitude saves, however, are at a +6, which is between moderate and high for this level of creature. Okay, so far this all seems pretty standard. Well, remember, undead also tend to have a bunch of immunities. Shamblers are immune to bleed, death effects, disease, mental, paralysed, poison, and unconscious. That's like 7. They also have void healing, so any spells that would deal void damage will heal them up. Flip side, vitality damage does hurt them, and they in fact have weakness 5 to it, so it's even more effective. That means if you hit them with at least 1 point of vitality damage, they will take 6. They're also weak to slashing for the same value. Slashing has a weakness of 5 as well. I guess their bodies tend to, bloat and not be quite as strong when they've been resurrected from corpses. So then how are their hit points? Well, zombie Shamblers have 20. That's off the chart. That's the highest of the high for level 0 creature, let alone a level -1. Now, of course, their AC and weaknesses help offset this a little bit, but it still makes them very tanky for this level of creature, especially if there are multiple to fight, as there should be. Their speed also isn't slow, interestingly. It's the standard 25 feet, but I suppose if you made them doubly slow, that would be too much. They'd spend all their time chasing and they'd never get to attack. And finally, speaking of attacks, the Shambler gets 2, a simple, fist attack and a slightly more complex zombie bite. Only slightly more complex. The fist attack is a +7 to hit, which is on the higher end of attacks for a level -1 creature, but it deals 1d6 +3 bludgeoning damage. That damage is again actually extreme for a level 0 creature, so this is another place where that slowness is really balanced out. Plus we're not done, this attack also features a grab, which works a little differently to how grabs work for player characters. The requirements are that the last creature that the monster took was a successful strike, and it lists the grab in its damage entry, or the monster has a creature grabbed or restrained. And the effect? If it's used after a strike, the monster attempts a grapple using a body part that it attacked with. This attempt neither applies nor counts to the creature's multiple attack penalty. This can be incredibly dangerous on creatures with more than 2 actions, because it means that they can grab and then make a follow-up strike, and they're only 1 increment of multiple attack penalty and now have you grappled. Thankfully, Zombie Shambler only has 2 actions, so it's not quite as dangerous. Oh, and the monster can also use grab and choose one creature's grabbing or restraining with an appendage that has grab to automatically extend it to the next turn. This means the zombie does need to be next to you for it to initiate this, because it does still need a second action. But if it is next to you, then this is where that high athletics comes into play, and a high fortitude for your PC's escape rolls. They grab on, and they won't let go easily. And if you can't escape and they aren't dead next round, then they have to sustain the grab, but can also zombie bite you. This is where requirements: the zombie has you grabbed or restrained. Effect: the zombie makes a Jaws unarmed melee strike against that creature with an attack modifier of +7 again, which deals 1d8 plus 3 damage. Now keep in mind, if you're grabbed or restrained, that makes you off guard, so really this is a +9 as your AC is going to be at a -2 in order for it to make this attack, which bumps the attack modifier very close to extreme for a -1 creature. And 1d8 plus 3 is pushing the boundary of extreme damage for level 1 creature, 2 whole ranks above the Shambler. Not messing around, but narratively I love this. They are slow, you can easily move away from them, but if they are many and you make a mistake or you get too confident, they can suddenly overwhelm you and start doing serious damage. Once they grab hold, you're in big trouble, especially at lower levels, and especially if there's multiple of them. And that's pretty much the Zombie Shambler. Now we aren't quite done. Much like with the skeleton that we've covered, there are also some zombie abilities that are listed that you can use to mix things up a little. One ability probably keeps them at level -1, except for one exception, and more you may need to up the level. We're going to cover these now. It's quite a list, but bear with us, there's some interesting stuff. Ankle Biter. This zombie fights just as well on the ground as it does standing. While prone, the zombie isn't off guard, it ignores the status penalty to its attack rolls and gains a +2 circumstance bonus to athletics checks to trip. The zombie can also move up to half its speed whilst it crawls. Disgusting Pustules is a disease. The zombie is covered in pustules that rupture when it takes any piercing damage or any critical hit. Adjacent creatures are hit with vile fluid, causing them to become sickened 1 unless they succeed on a fortitude saving throw against the moderate DC for the zombie's level. Feast! 2 actions. Manipulate trait. If the zombie is adjacent to a restrained or unconscious creature or a corpse that died in the past hour, the zombie can feast upon its flesh. This restores an amount of hit points equal to the zombie's level. I guess we'd say 1 here, not -1. And if the creature is alive, the zombie deals damage equal to its jaws, fist or claw damage. Plague-ridden, another disease. The zombie carries a plague that can create more of its own kind. This functions as the plague zombie's zombie rot, except at stage 5, the victim rises as another of the zombie's type rather than a plague zombie, and you use the high spell DC for zombies level. We'll cover plague zombies in the future. Persistent Limbs is the first time the zombie is critically hit with a melee or ranged strike, a limb falls off the body and continues to attack. The limb acts on the zombie's initiative. Each round it can stride up to half the zombie's speed and make a strike. The limb uses and contributes to the zombie's multiple attack penalty. Putrid Stench is an aura and is olfactory, which means it's nose related, with aura of 15 feet. The zombie's rotting flesh is particularly malodorous. A creature that enters the area must attempt a fortitude save of a moderate or high DC for the zombie's level. On a failure, the creature is sickened 1, and on a critical failure, the creature takes a -5 foot status penalty to its speeds for 1 round. While within the aura, you take a -2 circumstance penalty to saves to recover from the sickened condition. And a creature that succeeded at saves is temporarily immune to all zombies' putrid stenches for 1 minute. Rotting Aura is another aura with the disease and void traits, and the zombie emits an aura of rotten disease that causes wounds to fester. Any living creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of the zombie and is not at full hit points takes 1d6 points of void damage. This damage increases by 1d6 every 6 levels the zombie has. Unkillable. That bodes well. This zombie is nigh unkillable. The zombie loses its weakness to slashing and gains resistance against all damage equal to its level, minimum 3, and gains weakness equal to twice its level, minimum 6, to critical hits. And you increase the zombie's level by 1 if you give it this ability for obvious reasons. Unholy Speed, the zombie gains a 10-foot status bonus to all its speeds. Well, that's quite a list, and honestly it covers a lot of what you can do with zombies already. So let's have a quick think about how you can utilise them in encounters. I feel like these guys are clearly designed to be used as some kind of horde, either by themselves at low levels or to be an additional problem at high levels alongside maybe a necromancer, death knight, or at the highest levels, fodder in to clear out in some kind of battle against a lich or maybe something similar. You could also use them as a manner of environmental hazard, or a ticking clock as it were. The party needs to collect an important artifact from this ancient tomb, but it's full of necromantic energy that provide the dead there no rest. So the party need to get in, find the item, maybe solve a puzzle or two to figure out where it is, and get out, and all the while the undead are slowly waking up and pursuing them. Maybe crank their speed down a little more as they're waking up, but, you know, they can be slow and they can be easily avoided, but it's clear you need to work quickly because otherwise you're going to start to get overwhelmed. You could also use them as part of an attack on a town, probably a town important to the party. In this kind of situation, maybe your party are too powerful for these shamblers to be a problem, but the townsfolk aren't. Now the danger isn't direct, but indirect, and the party will need to plan differently to save as many people as they can. So if one of them gets grabbed, if they roll more than like 1 on the dice, that's going to be level 0 characters' hit points completely gone. So there we are, the zombie shambler. Slow? Absolutely. Smart? Absolutely not. But still, not to be underestimated, lest you fear their terrible bite. Thanks for watching. Next, Meet the Monster, we'll be looking at a variety of level -1, and I think the last level -1 Monster Core 1 creatures, a variety of Fae for Monster Week, so subscribe for that. But that's all for now. If you've made it so far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.